and hope everyone is doing well, as much as well it can be in samsara. You know, samsara is full of challenge. So within the challenging samsaric life, I think anything, anytime, very good is good. And so again, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining for our Sunday class, and which we have been going through this Atisha's Lojong practice of the Bodhisattva Garlands of the jewels. So before we start, as usual, we will start with a short breathing meditations, watching the breath mindfully. Then we can try to good intention. By thinking may us coming together and listening to the teachings. In engaging discussions, reflection, contemplation, may all of these become cause and conditions to apply those Lojong mind training teachings as much as possible in our life. So that we can transform whatever challenges, difficulty we face in our life into something positive, something beneficial. And may it become cause and conditions for us to become and improve our compassions, kindness, and our wisdom. And may it become cause and conditions to be more kind and more benefit and more help to other sentient beings. may it become cause and conditions to actualize our own highest potential, fully awakened state, so that not only we can be some help and benefit to some sentient beings, but to be able to be benefit to each and every sentient beings. Not only help and benefit, the highest help and highest benefit. Okay. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create to listen to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Sodam Soke Sonam Changjo Bhato Dagi Shoshe Gibe Sonam Yola Penje Sangye Do Barash Sangye Sodam Soke Sonam Changjo Bhato Dani Dagi Shoshe Gibe Sonam Yola Penje Sangye Do Barash. So, in this mind training text, it's full of many advices, instructions, teachings, and last week we went through, on the advice and teachings, instructions, why we need to work hard to reduce and overcome our own strong desire, attachment, craving, because that kind of strong attachment, desire, craving is one of the main root of our, suffering and pain and unhappy mind, as well as is the cause of creating, cause and conditions, negative karma, cause and condition to have a low rebirth in the futures, as well as it very much take away the very heart of the liberations. And through that kind of strong desire, attachment, craving, then many other delusion arises. So many other negative emotions, delusions arises, and that create a lot of mental disturbance, unpeace in our mind, as well as create. Due to that, it also bring a lot of harmful actions towards others. So that was more or less we kind of touch on that particular verse of instructions quite a bit last week. So is in page number 2, today we will come to maybe where it says, should you find a way to peace and happiness, start constantly to put into practice. So that is another advice and instructions that you find here. So when you talk about peace and happiness, we are talking about mental peace and happiness, not a sensual sense pleasure. We could have sense pleasure and mental happiness. Those are very different things. You can have sense pleasure at the same time your mind being not happy. So you could have your we might be having, our favorite food, the delicious food that you like, you love. While you are tasting that and having that sense pleasure of that delicious food, at the same time, your mind can be very disturbed and unhappy, and so therefore, it's much more important to have mental peace and happiness than sense pleasures. If you have mental peace and happiness, then we can be, no matter what situations, we can find more enjoyment, more satisfactions in our life, and so therefore, whole, you can say, in a way, you can say whole Buddha's teachings and practice is to cultivate and develop that kind of inner peace, mental inner peace, and mental happiness. Is all teachings and practice are geared towards to achieve that. There can be, of course, different level of mental peace. There can be a different level of mental happiness, but essentially that is the teaching and practice are towards that. And so, so if you, because that is a crucial, that is more crucial, that is more important than just a sense pleasure, and therefore, if you find any practice, any method, any way to cultivate and to improve and to develop and to improve that kind of inner mental peace and mental happiness, then we should put all that effort to achieve and improve that. So different, whether you call it Dharma or not, whatever label you give it, you can call it Dharma or whatever other form label you give it. But as long any practice, any form of practice, if it help and if it support and help you to develop inner peace and happiness, then we should try to put effort towards that, so we can achieve and improve that. And so that is the advice here. So, and there can be many different, many different different method, different practices, different meditations, and certain particular practice, certain particular meditations, certain particular method, might be more effective, beneficial to a certain individual than others, and so forth. So, but basically, that is basically whatever you find that, then you try to apply that. You try to apply that, and try to put effort in doing that. Because the problem in our world at the moment, one of the bigger problem is, is not due to the lack of sense pleasure, for majority of the, for many of the peoples, not everyone, but because, there are a lot of people who struggles to have resources to even have a sense pleasure, and comfort, physical comfort. But, there are many other people as well who have enough resource to cultivate all the sense pleasure, physical comfort, but, mentally very unhappy, mentally very unhappy, mentally very unhappy. And very disturbed, and what disturbed our mind and what made our life unhappy, is mostly our own state of mind, state of mind. Even though sometimes we feel like it is the external conditions, it is not only that. If you have a strong practice, if someone has strong practice, if someone has a strong control over their mind, the external conditions, the changing external condition not only disturb their mind, will not be able to disturb their mind and their peace. It will not be able to disturb, their happiness, But when we don't have that tools, and we don't have those practice, and when we don't know how to control our mind, when you don't have those meditation and tool to deal with that, then when there are changing external factors, conditions, then that affect your minds. That affect your mind, and that make you unhappy and disturbed. So it is not just the external conditions that is making your life miserable and unhappy, even though we feel like that sometimes, is not because we don't have the tool to deal with our mind. If you have the practice and tool to deal with your mind, those different changes and of events, of situations, on external level, that will not be able to disturb your inner peace and happiness, So that is that we have to be aware and remember that, because a lot of time, we always kind of seems to point outside all the time, and kind of doesn't really work with our own mind. If we understand that, then we will pay more attention to work with our mind. And if we work with our mind, we will have more success of not allowing the external changes to affect our inner peace and inner happiness, And that is the advice, the teaching instructions, Again, that is the very essence of all the Buddha's teachings, is of that, So to be able to do that, then we have to change our mind. To change our mind, we have to practice, meditate. In order to practice, meditate, we have to remind ourselves all the time. In order to remind ourselves all the time, listen to the teachings, readings, studies, and engage in discussions about Dharma with others. So with all of that, all of those help us to remind us the importance of practicing. And so when we are reminded, then we try to practice more. And when we practice more, then we have better success in dealing with difficult situations, challenges, and so forth. And when you have more success with, to be able to deal with, positively, with more difficult and challenging situation and problem, then we can remain, despite external challenges, difficulties, still we can remain our mind calm, peaceful, and happy. We can still remain our mind calm, peaceful, and it's absolutely possible. It's absolutely possible. We have seen so many people in the world who have some of the most challenging situations in their life, but who is able to smile all the time. Not just external smile, but smile that comes from inside, who is able to remain positive even in those situations, who is able to keep their mind calm, peaceful, and joyful even that. So we do have the capacity, we do have the ability to do that. It is all about putting the effort to do that. It is not something that some people have the capacity and some people do not have capacity. Of course, due to previous practice and imprint, some people seems to have better capacity to handle such situation in this life, and some not. But again, those who doesn't seem to have, because they don't have so much imprint and from the practice from the past, even they might not be able to deal with those situations so well at this point. But if we put effort to practice, then with the time we will also reach that point where we can be also able to handle those difficult situations more positive and healthy way, that where it doesn't make your life miserable, take away your inner peace, calmness, and happiness or joyfulness in your mind and in your life, as well as life of people around you, because it affects. If I'm able to keep myself joyful, that energy vibrates and is felt by everyone around you. And people also feel happy about it, joyful about it. On the other hand, if my mind is very miserable, unhappy, not only I experience that miserableness, unhappiness, that energy is felt by people around me, vibrate, people feel that energy. And when they feel that kind of miserable, unhappy, it also affects them. So it's not only about you. Sometimes, even though we might think, we are not aware how much your state of beings, just being happy or not doing anything, but when you are happy and you are around with people, it affects people. Just being by happy. And same way, when you are unhappy and miserable, and when people are around you, they feel that energy. And they feel also kind of unhappy and miserable when they feel that energy and that. And so because everything is so interconnected, interrelated, and so sometimes we're not even aware, I didn't say anything, I didn't do anything. But just being unhappy yourself, just being unhappy, there's kind of energy there, vibrational energy. Same with happiness. And when different energies felt by people, even animals or people, it affects them. And so trying to keep your mind peaceful and happy is not only for yourself, but for also others, for others. So that is put into the practice. Next advice is, whatever task you set out to do, accomplish that very thing first. You see this kind of advice in many lojong. You see it in the Santideva's Bodhisattva way of life. He also gives same kind of advice, and you see in some others lojong as well. And I think it's a very, very good advice. Very important advice. Whether it is related to our spiritual dharma, or whether it is related to our everyday life, with others. I feel it is a very practical and very good advice, because sometimes, we become too greedy and we take too much on our hand and never complete each of them. And then it affects your mind, it affects other people's. You feel guilty about that. You have accepted all of them, but you cannot do all of them well. Either you don't have time, and because you have accepted too many things or done too many things, and then you slowly, because you are unable to give time or energies, and you are unable to do it, then you started to feel guilt about yourself. You start to feel bad about yourself. Then it also affects others, because then other people lose trust. You have kind of, accepted to do something, and then you are unable to do that. And then also other people started to kind of, we have accepted to, take the responsibility and this and that. And then when you were unable, unable to do it, then also other people also kind of started to lose little trust, and you feel bad about. So so that is how the effect of that, the consequences of that, and same with the practice. Sometimes we take too much. So I know many of you are not doing, but like in the in the past, some people, and also including myself, many, especially when we grow up without knowing much in a Buddhist family, and took all kind of empowerment initiations, knowingly, unknowingly, and all with all these kind of commitments you have made. And then when you are unable to do all this commitment, then you started to caution, you start to feel better about yourself, you started to caution your practice and the practice itself. And then sometimes people just give up the practice itself. I've seen that, because it's too much. And so you feel bad about yourself, you feel bad about your practice, you feel bad about all of that, and then not only that, then also you are breaking those commitments, samaya, pledges, and so and at the end you don't have much to show, when you try to do too many things at the same time. But when you try to accomplish one practice, then there is something to show, and you feel confidence. It gives you confidence. It gives you confidence. And that helps you. When you have that confidence, then it helps you to encouragement, give you more confidence and encouragement to do more practice. I will give you one example. I have a friend who has been advised by his teachers to do, many practices, kind of preliminary practices, And he has been trying to do that, all three, 4 different practices, little each day, for 10 years. But he haven't finished, because you have so little time, and because you are trying to do all of those practices at the same time, and then you, by 10 years, you have only accomplished very little of each of them, and become very discouraged, and kind of totally kind of gave up doing that. And we had discussions, and we brought up the issues, and then through our discussions, I kind of advised him, don't try to do all the practice, just focus on one practice, just try to complete one practice, and then once you have finished one practice, and focus on the next one. And so I think it will be more beneficial and healthy if you do that. And then he started doing that, and then within a very short period, 3 years, he finished all the things that he was given to do practice. And once he finished one, then it gave him a lot of courage, confidence, and then enthusiasm. and enthusiasm in practice. And then he was able to finish the other commitment, third commitment, all of that. And after finishing all other commitments, then he continued to do other practices, because now it gave him more kind of encouragement, uh, confidence, and all of that, and enthusiasm. So that is one. It is very. That is why I say this. That is why I say this advice seems to very much be very helpful and practical. Once you accept it's something to do, then put all in effort to accomplish that. And when you accomplish that, then again we can kind of be able to give more and accept to do more, and that, and in that way then we can accomplish many things. Otherwise we might not be able to accomplish anything at the end of the it's like so many projects you have started that never completed any of those projects. So at the end, someone asks you, have you completed any project? No. And you ask yourself, have you completed your project? No, you don't feel good about it. Of course, you have started so many projects. There are so many projects, and you might have made some progress, but you never completed, On the other hand, even if it's just one project, you complete it, and that gives you a lot of confidence, good feeling about it. Even though I haven't been able to do a lot, but at least I accomplished that. At least I finished one thing. I accomplished one thing. And I was able to do this thing. And then that will, as I mentioned, that will give you a lot of enthusiasm, confidence to do more, whether it's a practice, whether it's a service, whether it's whatever it is, it will give you. And so that is the advice here. So accomplish that very first thing. This way, everything will turn out well. If not, nothing will succeed. So that is it. Otherwise, yeah, we talk on too many practices here and there and that, and you try one little bit, and you give up, and you try another one little bit, and you give up. You try a little bit, and at the end, kind of nothing to kind of really tangible, nothing tangible. But at least if you dedicate on one practice, whatever that form of practice, with a certain time, then you will be able to achieve something with that and complete and finish, and that will give you a lot of inspirations, a lot of enthusiasm, because we as ordinary beings, we like to see some kind of tangible result to show. When there is something tangible result to show, it gives you much more confidence, encouragement, enthusiasm. When you don't have any tangible result to show, then sometimes it can be very kind of, uninspiring, and so that is, so we can apply this advice both in our practice, meditation, same with studies, When you commit to study something, it's important to complete all of that, so that is how personally, same with studies too, You study a little bit of medicine and you give up, then you think, oh, I want to study law, and you started studying a little bit of law, and then, oh, this is not me, then I wanted to study, and then you never kind of complete and have whole picture of any subjects, And same with studies, sometimes it's like that, and so there you hear, and we study, and we hear, and we learn a little bit about one particular text, one particular subject, a little bit, but you miss something. And so then there's a gap, there's a gap, and so, but it is important, to make that kind of commitment to, when we start doing something, then trying to complete that fully. That is always good. It's good for nothing, for your own mind, for your own mind, so that it give you more that kind of inspirations, competence, and all of that. So then next, another advice: never take pleasure in act that harms. So again, generally speaking, when you are in good state of mind, any beings, especially human beings, when they are in good state of mind, when they are calm, peaceful, happy, and when they are in positive state of mind, good state of mind, nobody want to hurt anyone. Nobody want to harm anyone. I don't think there's any beings who want to hurt and harm someone while their mind is happy, peaceful, calm, and while they are, in a good state. But when our mind is not good state, when our mind is disturbed, when our mind is disturbed by different emotions, when our mind is disturbed by frustrations, impatience, anger, jealousy, hatred, and all other different negative emotions, when those emotions arise and when they disturb our peace, calm, our positive state of mind, then that is, we engage into some harmful and hurtful actions. It happens. It happens to everyone who has those negative emotions. When you have those negative emotions, certain cause and condition comes and those negative emotions manifest. When one of those negative emotions manifests, and when we don't have a strong Dharma practice and tool, then those negative emotions overtake us, and then we do things that normally we will not do. We will say things that we will normally say. We will have negative thoughts normally we will not have. Harmful thoughts, harmful speech, harmful physical reactions. All this will manifest, not because you want, but because your mind has been disturbed. And you are not a normal person yourself in that moment. And and your mind is disturbed because of those different negative emotions manifesting, arising in that moment. So it is natural, that kind of, manifesting that kind of negative emotions, and then on the basis of manifesting those negative emotions, due to not having a strong practice and tools to deal with them, and then those negative emotions manifesting in such something harmful actions, either through body, speech, and mind, is a natural, normal for any ordinary beings. It happens to everyone. It happens more to some other people than others. Some people have, little less. Some have more. Some engage in such more frequent, some less, but, and some more strong and some less strong. But that is that happens. So even when that happens, once we recognize, oh, I don't want to use the words, because, but I guess maybe I might use it, because I often hear a lot of people using that. It's a nice, not such an, I guess it's, so we don't want to, in normal, when you are normal, we don't want to engage into any harmful thoughts, any harmful speech and physical actions. But sometimes, due to all of the conditions that I mentioned, we do that. Once that happens, then you recognize, sometimes you might be able to recognize immediately. Sometimes it might take you more time to recognize that, sometimes it might take you a few seconds, few minutes, few hours. Sometimes it might take you a few days or weeks to recognize that. So whatever, when you recognize that, shit, I did that, I had that negative thoughts, or I said that, I respond or reacted that way, So once you recognize that, then you regret instead of being pleasure me for having act in such a harmful way, we regret it. That is the advice, the key here, Never take pleasure in an act that harms, Whether it's a harmful act done by yourself or done by someone else. Do not take pleasure in that, because that goes very against the whole Mahayana teachings, the very root of Mahayana teaching, the very heart of the Mahayana teachings and practice. It goes against the very heart and the root of the Bodhisattva practice. How can we take pleasure in the act of harm done by whoever, by yourself or by someone else? So that is. So in our cases, when it is done by ourselves, once we recognize it, we don't take pleasure, but instead regret and try to do purifications. Try to regret and try to do the purifications. If we see someone's act, behaving in such harmful act, if there is some way we can stop, if there is a way that we might be able to stop, we might be able to stop such harmful actions, we can do that. If we cannot, we feel compassion for the person who is being harmed, and we feel compassion for the person who is engaged in harmful actions, because he or she is creating a lot of negative karma. And not only negative karma, he or she is creating a lot of, he or she is putting themselves in vulnerable situations because he or she is making a lot of enemy by that harmful actions. That person's families, friends will be upset and angry. So creating all other people to whom he or she has harmed, he or she is creating a lot of enemy now, new enemy. The other person's family, friends, everyone become. And so from that, and more enemy means more potential to receive more harm for that person. And from that point of view, again, we can, feel compassion for them, because it's like they are chopping their own hand with that axe. It's like chopping your own hand with your axe, And so by that understanding, we try to feel compassion, that is, and then also we have to be mindful and careful, when there are certain individuals that we don't like, and when some other people do something harmful to them, we might feel pleasure about that. We might feel pleasure about that. And so that is, again, be very mindful and not allow our mind to take pleasure in someone's harmful actions and the suffering of someone else due to that actions. Even the worst person in this world, even the worst person that, when someone is acting in a harmful act towards someone, the worst person in the world, we shouldn't take pleasure in that harmful act of someone because they are engaging with someone, the worst person in the world. We shouldn't take pleasure in that. Neither we should take pleasure in the suffering of that being. But we have to be careful, because when you have so much strong anger, hatred, when you have so much anger and hatred to someone, it's easy to feel pleasure in the suffering of that being. It's easy to feel pleasure in the suffering of the person because you hate and you dislike, and you have so much anger towards that person. It is easy to feel joy and pleasure in the suffering and pain of that person, as well as pleasure and joy in act of someone harming that person. So those are things that we have to be more mindful. As an ordinary being, sometimes those mind can arise. But through being more mindful, aware, when those kind of mind arises, be aware of that, and trying to transform that, and trying not to have any more of that kind of feeling of pleasure and happiness by seeing someone's suffering and someone's harmful actions, and instead, if possible, try to feel compassion by seeing their pain and sufferings. So that is the teachings, advice, instructions, meaning that never take pleasure in act that harms. And when thoughts of superiority creep in, then and then deflate your self-importance. So one of another negative emotions, another harmful negative emotions is, feeling of superiority, and therefore being kind of feeling, the unhealthy pride, delusional pride, or arrogant, or sense of superiority, is very, very unhealthy and harmful, in so many different ways, on many different levels. For one, when you have that, we create kind of gap between others and oneself. We already create, by just having that emotion, that feeling, we already create gap. Other less and oneself better. We create that kind of, and that kind of feeling of that gap creates a lot of problems. One thing. Secondly, when you have that kind of sense of arrogant pride, delusional pride, and and I'm using delusional pride because there can be a positive pride as well. Divine pride is positive pride. And when someone, when you do something good or your children, your friend good, you feel proud about them or proud about that actions. That is nothing to do with feeling of superiority, is that feeling great that your children, your friend is able to achieve that, able to do that, or you yourself feeling good about it, Whereas this delusional pride is sense of feeling superiority, feeling of more superiority than others, uh, in whatever field it is. So when we have that kind of pride, sense of arrogance, then kind of superiority, then it also creates obstacle from us learning more from others. If I think I know more Dharma than yourself, and then feeling of more superiority than yourself, even sometimes when you have something good to share and something good to, really good advice or instructions or teachings or suggestions or opinion and whatever, when you have something good, even when if you have pride, then you will not hear that. You will not hear because you think, oh, I know better than you. You know less than me. Even there's something good to it that you can learn, you will never hear properly. So that and you are unable to hear fully correctly because of that kind of delusional pride, feeling of superiority, then feeling that you know better than that person. On other hand, if you don't have that feeling of superiority, instead you feel you are equal or less, and when there's some advice, instructions, suggestions, you are able to listen better and you are able to hear better. And when you are able to listen better and when you are able to hear better, you learn more. A lot of time, we don't learn so much, even though because we are not fully listening and we are not fully hearing that, And such mind state of arrogance and delusional pride is one of the obstacles to fully listen and hear it. So it becomes an obstacle to study more, to get more knowledge, more wisdom, Thinking, I've studied 30 years, 40 years, now I don't need to study anymore. Feeling that kind of arrogance and pride, or I've studied 40 years, 50 years, I don't need to study. If you have that kind of attitude, then you will not study. If you don't study more, you will not gain more knowledge, you will not gain more wisdom, and you will not improve more. On the other hand, if you always feel, you are like a student all the time, no matter how much you have studied, whole your life, feeling you are still students, feeling that I don't know enough, feeling that I need to study more instead of feeling superiority or feeling that I need to practice more and all of that, then, you keep your mind open in that way. Your mind open. When you're that open, you study more, you learn more, you gain more knowledge, more experience, more wisdom, and so forth. On the other hand, if we have that kind of delusional pride and arrogance, then we will, why should I study anymore? I've learned 60 years, I know everything. Or I've practiced so many years, now I don't need to practice. And so on. So it's a big obstacles to gain more knowledge, to gain more wisdom, to gain more experience, to improve, to get better, and that is why, like inspiration that you hear from like his own Dalai Lama, even though he has studies since he was, I think, 4 or 5, Dharma, not to talk about in the past, even just this life, since he was 4 or 5, he's 87 now, he continued to study. He continued to study. He says, by his table, by his pillow, he has the text, and he read every day. He tried to reflect, contemplate, his study every day. Every day. Even that age, he continued to study. He continued to practice. Continue to, whenever there is possible, continue to receive teachings. Same with, all my teachers. One of my teachers who came here, a few years ago, 7, 8 years ago. He's now the head of the Gelug lineage, and he's same age as His Holiness, and still in that age, he never stopped studying. He never stopped practicing. He never stopped listening and going to the teachings. Still, at that age, he made all the effort to go to whenever there is teaching by His Holiness and other teachers. He continued to make effort to go. It's not easy for that age to travel, especially in India, but make all the efforts to go, and those are the attitude that you have, that feeling that instead of feeling superiority that I know everything, So it is obstacles your personal growth, and your personal growth for your personal development. Absolutely, when we have that kind of attitude, mindset, it's absolutely obstacle to your personal growth and development. At the same time, when you have that kind of attitude, you hurt and harm others, because there's sense of, when you feel that, then there's sense of feeling others less than yourself, and there's sense of looking down on others because you feel they are less than you. Sense of putting down others, sense of looking down on others, And sometimes when you have that, then you make them feel bad. You make them feel bad. You make them feel they are unworthy. You make them feel like you are stupid. You feel them make like, they are not good enough. All of that through your response, reactions, and attitude, So it becomes very kind of, disheartening, discouraging for others. Maybe losing in their confidence, and all of that. Maybe it also can, contribute to their depressions and all this, self-loathing, self-hatred, all of that. It can lead to all of that, and because, because you're superior, you make them feel little, you feel them little. That is what happens when someone has attitude of that kind of arrogance and superiority. That is how you act a lot of time, make the other person feel very little, very small, useless. If they have something to share, you feel like, I don't need it, or it's not necessary, or it's not good, useless. Silly cautions, making that kind of, having that kind of attitude and acting that way, then, that way, then it can be very, very harmful, hurtful, harmful for the others, And, when someone treats you like that way, there's no way that you can, like that person, When someone make you feel that and they act to make you feel that, definitely, you don't feel close to them. You don't feel good about them. You don't have good impression about them. So, and so in a way, then you are creating, instead of creating more close, you are creating more distant from the others to whom you treat that way. On one hand, we like everyone to like us, don't we? We want everyone to love us. We want everyone to like us. On the other hand, with our such kind of attitude and behavior, we are pushing them others, making them other dislike us, making them not love us. It's the opposite of what we want and the cause and condition we create for that kind of, It's interesting, it's interesting. So it affects negatively to others and oneself, everyone. It doesn't help and benefit anyone. It doesn't help and benefit yourself. It doesn't help and benefit others by having that kind of attitude and acting on that kind of attitude, acting on the basis of that attitude. And so therefore, that is where here it says, when that superiority or arrogance or delusional pride arises, manifest, again, as I mentioned, because we are the ordinary being with full of delusions, so those will creep in sometime, even without knowing it, sometimes they will manifest, When we manifest it, we recognize that, oh, again, look at this, delusional pride, sense of self-importance, superiority, arrogance arises. Moment you recognize that, right there, in that very moment, without any delay, then we try to overcome, we try to let go and overcome and destroy that kind of arrogance by applying whatever practice, meditations, antidote that you have, that to apply, so, immediately thinking, why should I be so, so superior? Why should I feel so superiority? If I'm good at something, then that person has something good than myself. I might have better educations, but he or she might be better persons. I might have more wealth, but he or she might be very more ethical, you know. So there is always, you know, there's, when we feel sense of superiority or sense of delusional pride, we have that on the basis of certain qualities of us, isn't it? Because we feel, whether it is real in reality or not, but we feel we have better particular qualities in that person's. So we feel more superior than that because of that qualities. But what about many other qualities that he or she has better than you? You know, what about our own weakness, our own defect? Yes, we might have this good quality in this area, but also we have a lot of other shortcomings, a lot of other faults, a lot of other defects. So therefore, on the basis of some particular good qualities, why should I feel I'm better than others? It's not correct. It's not right. It's not based on reality. It's not based on reality. If every quality is better than the other person, from A to Z, every quality, everything inside, outside, everything better, at least maybe you can feel that way. But when every quality is better than others, you will never feel that. Look at the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas. They never feel that way, even though they have that qualities, positive qualities in everything. So if that's the case, why should I be so arrogant? Why should I be such a delusional pride? Why should I feel so, superior? And why should I treat others with that kind of attitude? So it is kind of, engage in battle with that kind of way of reflecting, contemplating, meditating that way, that is what we call analytical meditations, thinking from all this from perspective, all those perspectives, then we encounter the sense of arrogant mind that says, I'm better than that person's, that says I'm superior than that person's. To counter that, to battle that, then you have to come with all these others. Why is not superior than others? Why shouldn't be holding superior and arrogant than that? And so using all this, thinking about the others persons, many other better quality than us, and many of the quality we are not aware. And there are so many. There could be many internal qualities that we will not be aware of that. All of that. So therefore, why should I feel superior than that person? And why should I treat that way? From that, reflecting on the positive qualities of others, at the same time, reflecting on our own shortcoming, our own fault, our own weakness, our own faults, Why should I be so that when I have all this fault, when I have all this shortcoming, when I have all this weakness, how can I feel such superior when I have all of that myself? That doesn't seem right, correct. That doesn't feel right, correct. That kind of attitude is not based in reality. It's totally blinded. It's based on blind and biased mind. Just by focusing on one qualities and just kind of ignoring all other things, but just on the basis of seeing goodness in one particular quality of yourself and holding on that as though that is all, all your qualities are like that. And so through that, then, pointing our own fault in such situation, when our mind is kind of taken by that kind of attitude, then that is good in that moment. In relation in the meditation practice to deal with that, then really kind of go through all our own faults and shortcomings, and so that we can be more grounded. So we can be more grounded by being aware, even though I might have these good qualities, or even better qualities in others, at the same time, I also have all this shortcoming, So therefore, there's no reason to superior. Instead, so being more grounded, grounded, and being aware and knowing and aware, we have our own good qualities and our own shortcoming. Other person also have their own good quality, their own shortcoming, In certain area, we might have better qualities, and they might have less. In certain area, they have better, they do better, and we have less. And through that, then sense of feeling of more equality, same, equal, and being more grounded, and instead of feeling more superior, And when with that kind of attitude, when you have that attitude, of course, a lot of time how we react or how we respond is a lot of time in what state of mind you are in that moment, isn't it? Your attitude. That is how, what I say, how I behave. Everything's very much kind of influenced by the state of me in that moment, state of mind in your emotions, feeling that moment, And so when you have that feeling of less superiority but more of equal, then your actions will reflect that. The way you express, physical expressions, your speech, what you say, and all of that. And when you treat others more kind of equal, if not superior, but at least equal, people feel good about that. They also treat you more that way. They will also respect you. They will also treat you that. If you treat them like garbage, they will also treat you like garbage. So it's all about who is going to throw garbage to whom and whom. You throw garbage that way, that person throw garbage to you, and keep on throwing garbage to each other. That is how it is. In generally speaking, normal speaking, especially for the ordinary beings, you treat others the way others treat you. If they treat you with respect, you treat them with respect. If they treat you with, disrespectful, you would like to also treat them disrespectfully. If they treat you with love, compassion, you want to treat them with love and compassion. If they want to treat you with, kind of anger and hatred, you also want to respond with anger and hatred. That's very kind of ordinary human beings' response. It's a natural, So and so therefore, that is how it is. And so when you treat them equal, they also treat you equal. When you treat them respectfully, because you don't feel they're less and you are superior, they also will treat you respectfully without treating you less or worse, And in that way, then we can have with that kind of respect, sense of equal and respect, then, we can have better conversations. In anything, whether you disagree or disagree, I think one of the problems that we find in the world, whether in the politics, whether in a spiritual world, whether it is on our individual life, it's hard to find middle way when there is two disagreement, two different views. To find the middle way is a struggle. We see that struggle in this country. We see that struggle all over the world. We see that struggle within the party, within the religions. We see that struggles within families because they have different view on different issues. And one of the things is because, individual not treating others respectfully and equally. Because someone has a different view that you don't agree, the other person feel that person is ignorance, garbage, useless, that person's view. And both feel that way. And both feel that energy. And then that is why I'm unable to find the middle way and compromise and find that works for everyone. The other side feel I'm ignorance. I feel the other person is ignorance. So there's already feeling of superiority, The other person feel I'm immoral. I feel that person is immoral. The other person feel and treat me as, what do you call? Bad persons, selfish. And I feel and I also treat them, feel and tell them they are selfish and bad persons, all of that. And so there is that instead of feeling respect and equal. Yes, we don't have to agree, but at the same time, I can respect you, I can respect your view. It's just that I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I don't have to follow that. I will follow my own view, but at the same time, I respect your view, your all of that, and just as equal. And I think when there is that feeling of each other respecting each other's, feeling of not treating others, making others less than others, then I think as a people, we are willing to discuss more truly, we are willing to give up something, Even I don't agree all of it, but I'm happy and willing to give up, sacrifice or give a little bit because I like you and I respect you. But when there's no of that, then I'm not going to give 1 inch, I'm not going to give 1 inch. And so there is never space for to find the middle way, and so therefore, very much depend on that kind of attitude, to solve problems on individual level or on bigger level. I think is important to respect and feel equal and not feel kind of superior, because that is sometimes, again, even though we are trying to practice Dharma, and we're trying, definitely we are not perfect and we're trying, and many of us sincerely try, But still, even with that, sometimes it's not easy. Practice requires a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of practice, and but sometimes those kind of superior can creep inside, and sometimes we are not even aware, just feeling, we are more compassion, they are less compassion, we are more ethical, moral, they are less moral, ethical, we care about the others, they don't take care about others, we are spiritual, they are not spiritual, we are honest, they are not honest. That kind of feelings, that kind of feeling and attitudes is not very healthy and helpful to others and oneself. It's not healthy to others, it's not healthy for ourselves, it is not healthy to find the better solutions to the problems. So again, that two words has such a big meanings, and it can be, those two lines of those teachings can be very, very lifetime commitments, practice, so that is where I think, this short is very short text, but full of such a great advice, practice, instructions that could be, practice for all our life, so I can take one or two questions if you have any questions or any comments.
Don't be shy. You can unmute yourself or raise your hand. Thank you so much. Thank you, Geshe, for the wonderful teachings.
Or send in chat. If you have, if you don't have, then of course you don't need to force, and you can have dedications. So I guess maybe we can do the dedications. May all living beings everywhere plagued by the suffering of body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtues of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, nor evil fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depressions. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored, finding repose. May the naked find clothing, hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those who with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, prosperity. May there be timely rains, bountiful harvest, and may all medicine be effective. And wholesome prayer bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever disease they are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightening cease to be afraid, and those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sense and memory remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, and have a wonderful day. Thank you, and wonderful week. Thank you.